drying that because they would have cold winters, and so they'd use that. There's not a lot of canning technology, any type of storage for the winter. And so we would use that, the solar dehydration projects, as the primary focus for the women's projects. Beekeeping was also another major initiative of our team, both for pollination and also for honey. They're basically, at one time, Afghanistan in the 60s and 70s was very well known for their honey production. And in the meantime, after the Soviets had left the country, and I believe their specific task was to destroy every living organism on their way out of the country, they really wiped out a lot of the bee population. So we worked in the host province especially to restore some, just putting beehives into each of these districts. Here's a photo inside the Gargash High School. This is actually during the agricultural career fair that I mentioned. And these are students at Gargash and looking at one of the first stalks of corn that they'd ever seen. Corn doesn't grow quite like it does here in Indiana, but they're a few decades behind, I think, on genetics, but we're working at it. And wheat is still the primary staple crop. Naan, as they refer to it, is their type of bread that they eat. And bread, rice, and beans is pretty much your standard meal. And if it's a holiday, you might get chicken, or if it's the birth of a new child, they occasionally have a lamb. This is the principal of Gargash High School working with his students. As I mentioned, you won't see any American forces in this, basically by design, because we wanted them to be able to show they had the capacity. So this is all the principal. We've trained him at the university. The extension agent has worked with them and said, now it's your turn to pass this on to your students. Here was a typical site visit. The gentleman on the far left, Raheem Hadi, he was one of our interpreters. The team had 6 interpreters on the team. And these were all young Afghan men in their early to late 20s who sacrificed their families and oftentimes their livelihoods to live on the base with us and in secrecy, because we needed someone with the local language and knowledge of that to work with the team. So he would go out with us in uniform, but then also serve as our interpreter and translator to the school officials. This is I chose this picture just to show you a site visit where we'd be working to look and basically to quality assure some of the projects. As we'd be out on the school sites, we'd be working with these principals to ensure that the contract was completed to our standards. By the numbers, we trained nearly 600 students through that in the 6 schools. And just this week, I was trying to get an update. There's currently a team on the ground. Our team was relieved in August of 2011, and Team 4 with the Indiana National Guard is currently on the ground there. Lieutenant Colonel Paul South from the South Bend area is actually the commander of the agricultural team. When I emailed him this week, I was shocked to have a reply within about 7 minutes. And he said, Bart, you happen to catch me while I'm back home in South Bend. I said, well, why are you responding to email? You should be with your family. And he said, well, you know what? He said, I think it's important that people know this project's still alive and going well. He said, working in the schools is by far the best thing this team's ever chosen to do. And we thank your team, once again, Major Gully and Major Shane Robbins, for that insight and working through that. So 120 Afghan educators have all gone through the program. 42 local farmers have been trained by the extension agents. And these farmers are basically no different than Indiana farmers, curious by nature, and said, what's going on over at that school? Why are there American people over at that school? So they stumbled onto the school grounds and said, hey, how can I get involved? So these extension agents, doing their job, trying to spread the good word, have welcomed these farmers on and provided hands-on training in the schools there. Mentioned earlier, 13 extension agents and 6 high schools. Currently, Team 4 has it in 6 additional high schools. And moving forward, many people say, what's the answer over there? What's that? And once again, as a lowly lieutenant, I couldn't give you the big overview. But without question, in the 1 year we spent on the ground there, youth development is the key. The whole idea of the Future Farmers of Afghanistan project was born not in any great university, but on a farm. While we were touring as a team, Jim Mosley, a name those of you who've been around the State Department of Agriculture and USDA might know well, Jim recommended. He spent 13 visits in Afghanistan working with the youth. And he said, if you guys are going to do anything, you don't need to build a thing. You need to build a program and work with their children. He said, in Indiana, we've got 4-H. We've got FFA. He said, in Afghanistan, they've got nothing. They look at their leaders, they look at their political officials, and everything's corruption. Everyone's in it for them. So we show these students in the schools through the Future Farmers of Afghanistan project that there is some other outlet. Corruption, one office holder at a time. Got a photo coming up with the Director of Agriculture that you'll see, and I'm happy to report he's no longer in office, and he's actually behind bars. He was put behind bars for illegal land trading involved with the mafia, which might seem hard to imagine, political office holder, but it's not Chicago, it's Afghanistan. And education provides opportunity. Once again, when these young men and women are graduating high school, the men especially, they really don't have a choice to enter the workforce. They either provide for their families or they join the Taliban and those Al-Qaeda, those other extremist groups that are out against the good of the cause. Foreign aid and investment. It's no secret the United States has started to clamp down on some of our expenditures overseas. And Pakistan is going to be an issue moving forward. How we address that issue, I'll let all those brilliant men in Washington decide. And the natural resource allocation. Afghanistan has recently been named as the Saudi Arabia of lithium. Some of those mountains that I pictured earlier are covered in billions and trillions of dollars worth of lithium, but there's no infrastructure to get it out. So how we would go forward with that is a great question, and the Chinese are actually making big investments there to look at if a road or other type of infrastructure would be a feasible way of establishing some type of industry there. Here I mentioned these are just some of the most beautiful children you've ever seen. They've all got olive tone skin, being out, and they're just genuine, good people that are interested in our way of life and how we move forward looking at that. They're very resourceful. This is a young man who traveled over an hour and a half by bicycle from the mountains to one of our training sessions. He came in on his bicycle, and that certain day we were putting on a forestry lesson and a poultry care lesson. So I asked through the interpreter, I said, how are you going to get all that home? I had a big, about 30-pound bag full of trees. He said, oh, my bicycle, my bicycle. And so I said, I've got to see this. And sure enough, he came out there, and I don't know if any of the animal care standards here in the United States would appreciate that, but I don't know if those chickens made it past lunch, but it put a smile on his face, and they were happy. As I mentioned earlier, the Director of Agriculture is no longer with us. So we move forward, get men like that out of office, put good people in office, some of these young men and women that have gone through the Future Farmers of Afghanistan project, and we could see a major difference there moving forward. Here are all 6 of our interpreters, and these are the men and women who worked there. There were a few women, I, once again, could not take their picture just due to the Muslim culture, that really risked their lives each and every day. Their families sacrificed, just like the families here in the United States. And so when I think back how we could make a difference here in the United States, it's first of all to look at the veterans who have gone before us. I saw Roy has his Vietnam hat, and I see Daryl here. There is a whole generation of Vietnam veterans who came home to a completely different reception than those of us coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. These are the men who have gone, made our lives possible here in the United States. And to come home to fanfare and reception is great, and I thank all of you for that. But never forget to thank those veterans who have gone before us. And also, Dad, you recognize the family here, but for the soldiers over there, it is difficult. I'm not here to tell you it's easy, but it's much harder on the families back in the United States. And I'd just like, for any of those, I know another gentleman said he had a son in the service, but would anyone who has a family member in the audience please stand up? A family member in the service? Have that. Let's give them all a round of applause. It possible for those of us to go over there and put ourselves in harm's way. Having the support of all of you back here is what encourages us to do it. So with that, I'm happy for any questions, and thank you for your time. God bless America. Neil.
So, could you talk a couple minutes about your weeks or months training before you actually left as the team?
Well, Dad mentioned prior to going to Afghanistan, I was on staff of Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman. So I believe we missed the Indianapolis 500. So it was Memorial Day time of 2010. Lieutenant Governor led a trade mission to China. And I was on her staff at the time. I went on that trade mission. And I believe we got in back from China after about 2 weeks in China on Sunday evening at 11 p.m. And Monday morning at 8 a.m., I was to report down to Camp Atterbury for active duty on our first team mission as that. We came together, as I said, didn't know a soul on the team, but we came together as a team, did most of our training for about 6 months prior to the point. We would come together just as you see National Guard's been working here today, 1 weekend a month. And a couple training programs like that we went through at about a week or two at a time. We were out on Purdue's campus we were on campus for about a week, working specifically in agronomy. And Kevin McNamara is an economist, some of you might know. He's done a lot of work in Afghanistan, looking at different types of technologies and all that. And once again, I mean, that was great training at IU. We did a lot of language and cultural training. And if you heard my broken costume, those are a few of the words I remember. And if for nothing else, the language part of it was just kind of a greeting and letting them know we respect their culture, that we work with them. But I'd say the most valuable training we had was on the farm of Jim Mosley. Just walking in here on a Saturday morning, sitting down with someone who had had that experience. Vicki.
Bart, you said you were on the third team.
Yes.
You guys are working with the high schools and students and 14s continuing.
Yes.
What did team 1 and 2 do that led to what you did?
Thank you. Great question. And I failed to do that. The whole concept of agribusiness development teams, each state, there are about 7 states in the country who have agribusiness development teams. Kentucky being one, Nebraska, agricultural focused states. Indiana's first and second teams laid the groundwork to make this possible. They were the ones who first went in and built the relationships with Sheikh Zayed University, found that there was a land grant institution in the province that we could go in and work with. So Team 1 was very, very responsible for finding that university. Team 2 continued the relationships and got out into some of the high schools and said, you know, where could we focus our efforts? And we're going to work together as a team. And Team 3, which was our team, kind of put the nuts and bolts together and built the final product, which made Future Farmers of Afghanistan possible. Team 4 is there. Team 5, Steve Howell mentioned having some local folks. I think, was it Brant? Did you mention his name, Steve?
Brian Williamson.
Brian. Some local folks on those teams. And any of you who would be interested in hosting teams like that on your farm, learning more about the program, please see me afterwards. There's no way that they turn away any help possible. They love that. And it was definitely some of the best training we had was sitting down with Indiana farmers who have their own insight.
Bart, some of those photos look like cloudy or dusty. Was there a lot of dust storms over there?
Dust, that would be an understatement. Growing up here on the farm, I have never had allergies in my life. In the first 2 weeks over there, I thought something was wrong, like I had a bronchial attack, or I didn't know what was going on. Could not run anything. Finally got on a couple nasal issues or medications there and got that cleared up. But it was, you did not take nice computers, any kind of electronics over there. You have to cover it in dust. Each day, I mean, you've not seen anything like it. And once again, though, that's due to the conservation and the water management